I always say this, is that when we're no longer around, it's our successes and individual accomplishments aren't what's remembered. It's the impact that we have on someone else's life.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the SMA Audio Experience podcast. We welcome back Mr. Sean Panado, lead visionary of Foresight Academy and multiple SMA Audio Experience podcast guest. We have something a little special from him. He actually did his recording out in Ireland, across the Atlantic. And there's going to be two things that he's going to be talking about today. One, he's going to be giving an update of how the growth of his company is going. And keep in mind, he's doing this while he's studying over at UCLA. And then two, he's going to be talking about the topic of how his studies are. He did a study abroad program for one of his classes during this summer out in Ireland. So without further ado, Mr. Sean Panado. Sean, take it away.
Hey Mark, just checking in. This is Sean Panado. Thanks again for having me on your podcast. It means a lot, as always, for you to reach out to me and to share my story of what I have going on or any updates. It's not always that I have an opportunity to share my story with an audience or a group of listeners. So, as always, like I said, thank you for having me. And hopefully what I say can bring some value to any of our listeners or to our audience. So yeah, just to jump right into it, you asked me to speak about any updates on my company, Foresight Academy, as well as my current status studying in Dublin, Ireland. But just to introduce myself, for those, if you haven't heard me speak before, my name is Sean Panado. I'm the current lead visionary of a company that I started, Foresight Academy, as well as a current undergraduate student at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. I'm an alumnus of St. Augustine High School, San Diego. I graduated middle school from St. Rosa of Lima School, Chula Vista. And then I also attended St. Michael's Academy, San Diego from grades kindergarten through 5th. And even though I don't feel like it's necessary to kind of mention my middle school or elementary school, I feel like they brought value to me in my life. So I always like to give them a shout out whenever I can. But so that's a little bit of my background. I'll jump right into any updates with my company, Foresight Academy. Just to introduce it, Foresight Academy is a service-based company that hosts sports camps to empower female athletes with skills for athletic performance and a limitless lifestyle. So we have currently been working on a campaign video with a couple unique female athletes and high-level female athletes. And the whole movement is #YouAreEnough. Because as a female athlete, what I constantly hear from my friends, what they tell me as a female athlete, or any of my guy friends who sometimes don't always give the respect to female athletes that they should, they say that female athletics isn't exciting enough, female athletes aren't strong enough, they're not quick enough. So our whole campaign that the team and I have been putting together is that #YouAreEnough, to remind female athletes that whatever they do in terms of athletics or life in general, there's no need for a justification or to explain why you're doing what you're doing. And I think a lot of the time people forget that athletes, whether male or female, compete for themselves. And what I mean by that is that as an athlete, we never compete for our parents, for our coaches, for the crowd, for the audience. And we do, and it brings them happiness and makes them excited to watch us. But at the end of the day, we do what we do, and we compete, whether in sports or in life, because it gives us joy. It fulfills us with passion. It gives us purpose. And I think that's what people forget in the light of all things, whether an athlete's starting the athletic career, they're halfway through their career, in the middle of it, or their careers even come to a close. So the whole campaign is just to remind female athletes that they're enough, and they compete and they do what they do for themselves because it brings them joy. It's the same thing when it comes to life. When you're applying for a career in a specific field or industry, you do what you do, and you strive to be the best at what you do because it brings you joy. It makes you happy, and it makes people around you happy, but it gives you a purpose and a passion in life. It fuels your fire. It wakes you up every day, and you're excited to do it. So that's what our whole campaign is. We've been working with a couple female athletes to be a part of the video. I'm excited to share the stories of Peng Lee. She was a former Olympic Canadian gymnast and did the 2012 Olympics, and she also attended UCLA. She scored 2 perfect 10s for the UCLA gymnastics team to win the 2018 National Gymnastics Championship. So her perfect 10s were able to win the team the national championship. And then Candace Wiggins, she went to Stanford and is a Hall of Fame basketball player there. She's also a WNBA champion, which is the highest league for women's basketball in the world. She had won in her early career. And then our last athlete that we have in the video is Afsoon Johnston. She competed in the 1990s, and she was essentially the first female wrestler from the U.S. To represent the U.S. in female wrestling on the worldwide stage, because at the time, female wrestling wasn't a part of the Olympics yet, and she was on track to compete in the 2000 Olympics. However, the Olympic Committee kind of butchered the time frame and the expectations, so they pushed it to 2004. And then at that point, Afsoon had already decided that she wanted to start a family, and she had been training for the 2000 Olympics, but they ended up pushing it off. And at that point, she wanted to move on with her life, and she made the ultimate decision to not stay away from the game, as she's still a coach and she's still on several boards and committees for women's wrestling. But as far as her career competing, she figured it was time to hang it up. And her story is very respectable, very notable. She's releasing a book next year on it, and we were able to capture her story in our video as well for the campaign #YouAreEnough. So that's what we've been putting together. That campaign will work into the marketing of our next camp, which will be in mid to late September. Registration will open in mid-August or early August, and the details of it, as far as the time, location, dates, is still in the works right now. It's still being processed, and we're waiting for a couple more things to be confirmed and approved. But we are expecting it to be composed of roughly 40 high-level middle school female athletes. Again, I will coach it, and I will instruct female athletes about the proper mechanics of form to change direction, decelerate, land from a vertical jump. Since I conduct research on ACL, MCL, and meniscus tears, female athletes are at least 3 times more susceptible than men, and up to 9 times more susceptible to tear their ACL or have a chronic knee injury. So that's what I currently do research on, and that's what the program that I've been developing. And then in addition to the athletic performance side, we'll also be letting them scrimmage. And we're just trying to get the best high-level female athletes in Southern California to compete under one roof, and then we'll finalize each of the 3 days with a high-level guest speaker to kind of discuss how to apply the life lessons from sports into everyday life. Because at the end of the day, everyone's athletic career will come to an end, but it's how you take the lessons from the games that we love playing and the sports that we love to life. And that's how we translate it and how we're able to carry it over. So that's what the 3-day camp will look like. It will consist of athletic performance, the injury prevention that I work on and research, as well as scrimmaging for basketball, and then a guest speaker, high-level guest speaker that I'm excited to introduce and share. But again, that's preceded by the campaign #YouAreEnough that we will be releasing hopefully by the end of July. So yeah, so stay tuned if you want to keep updated with what we have going on. Our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter is at the number 4, SIGHT, and then Academy. So that's, again, at number 4, SIGHT, Academy. And then our website is www.foursightacademy.com. It's a little different than the social media, but just the website is different, is the only one where we spelled out the number. And again, we're really excited to have our camp in September. Our last one was in the winter of 2018, so we've been pretty eager to release this new one and the details of it, as well as release this video. Again, the team and I were really brainstorming about what female athletes feel, and what they feel like should be brought to light, and that's a topic that should definitely be addressed, is that they are constantly underappreciated, disrespected, for just not being quote unquote strong enough or quick enough or exciting enough. And it's not, any athlete doesn't do what they do for anyone else. They do it for themselves. And I think that's something that's very personal to me and to any athlete. So that's the story that we just wanted to bring to light and share with the general population. Hopefully it'll resonate with a lot of people from all different backgrounds, all different sports. And that's what we're excited for. The second topic you asked me to talk about, Mark, was my current status in Ireland. I'm currently in my dorm recording this here in Dublin, Ireland. I'll be studying physics for 8 weeks as a part of an extension of a program at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, which is where I currently go. I'm a current psychobiology major, so physics is just another requirement of the major, and that's what I'm studying here. And it's a very different culture out here in comparison to my life in San Diego. If you've listened to a couple of the previous podcasts, I had moved 10 times in my life or 9 times, from kindergarten all the way up until I moved out for college. So I've been around different backgrounds, different communities, very diverse group of people that I've grown up around. And Dublin, Ireland, and Europe is very different than when I visited the Philippines or Hong Kong, or even New York City or Mexico. This is my first time in Europe, and it's very different. I think people have been asking me, my family, what's the biggest difference so far? Is that I think the people here, it's definitely a lot slower. The United States is a much newer country, much younger country, so they're very modernized. And obviously the architecture and the buildings and the history to Ireland will be a lot older than the U.S., and it is. But I think also the people are very different. They strongly believe in being eco-friendly. They are very passionate about being kind and generous to each other. And of course, you have people with high sense of urgency who are a little rude at times, but for the most part, everyone is very generous to each other and very kind on the street. Even if you're a stranger, they're very much willing to help you in case you need help going somewhere or doing something. They're just a little bit more genuine here across the board than I would feel in San Diego or Los Angeles or New York City. Of course, those are big cities, but maybe in Colorado or Utah, where this very nature is just like here, like it is here in Dublin, Ireland, maybe it is a little bit slower, but I don't know that. But as far as my experience in comparison to San Diego, Los Angeles, everyone here seems a lot more down to earth, and it's very refreshing to see a different culture and be exposed to a different group of people that have a completely different take and perspective on life. And I'm able to kind of appreciate and sit back and reflect a little bit on my lifestyle in Southern California. So I think the biggest thing for me individually is that I've been able to kind of realize that I'm doing what I'm doing. I work hard in school. I try to do what I can for the company, and try to give back to my family because I choose to, and I'm not caught up in everything else and the hustle and the grind, but I'm doing it because I want to, and it's something that I actively choose to do. And I think that's what being out here in Dublin, Ireland has helped me to realize, is that I'm doing what I do because I choose to. I'm in control of my life and my habits and my actions and my decisions, which is at times overwhelming when you're in California because you feel like you're caught up in the whirlwind and in the grind or in the hustle. You get caught up in whatever you're working on. But here in Dublin, Ireland, I was able to kind of just reflect and sit back and really appreciate what I have and be thankful and understand that I don't have to do everything that I think I need to when I'm back home. I can make the decision to actively say no, say yes, put my time and effort into something what's most valuable for me, which is whether it be my family, my schoolwork, or my company, which is something that brings me joy. So I think that's what's been special and unique. Food is very different. I'll move on to a very more casual subject, but food is very different. For some reason, they like having potatoes with every meal and sauce with every meal. And they like to layer it on top of some form of protein, whether it be a meat, like a beef or a chicken. Very different than when it's very like organized in different sections. California, whether it be like Mexican food or sushi and stuff, they obviously don't have that stuff here. They do, but it's not to the same degree of expertise as Southern California and the diverse food down there. But yeah, I think I'm experiencing it with a couple of my other UCLA friends, and I'm meeting new people from UC Davis, UC Berkeley, UCSD, UC Santa Cruz. Very diverse group of people on this program. I think it's very exciting. I think if I could give any tips currently as of my current status, I recently read a new book called Wise Guy, Lessons from a Life by Guy Kawasaki. He was a colleague of Steve Jobs and worked alongside Steve Jobs in the prime years of Apple. He's actually the father of one of my good friends from UCLA. And he recommends, which is something that I truly advocate for, if you're picking to college, I know it's getting ready for college application season or getting ready to prepare for college essays in the summer. If you're getting ready to decide for college, I'd really recommend that you choose a college or apply to colleges that are outside the range of your local neighborhood. I think it's prime and ideal if you were far enough where you're at least not able to go home and do laundry. I think that was the way that the author put it, Guy Kawasaki. I think that's how he put it, is that at least you shouldn't be able to go home for laundry. So you can be able to be on your own, be a little independent, and kind of see the world from your own perspective and learn about your own beliefs and what you're passionate about. As far as that's for high schoolers on their way to college. As far as any middle schoolers listening on their way to high school, just continue to be open. Just understand that wherever you currently are, that's very small in comparison to the rest of the world. I'm starting to realize that as well. Of course, we have a huge influence, whether it be in our school, in our family, in our community, on our teams, on our local clubs, but it's very different than the rest of the world. They do things very differently, and just keep that in mind. Be open, be respectful, be appreciative of differences. I think that's what makes things so refreshing and so new, is that things are constantly different than what you think or what you have going on. So I think that's something to keep in mind for any middle schools going out to high school, especially when you're going to be exposed to a bigger community, most likely in your high school. Be open to meeting new people. They may be different from a different background, but please take that seriously, is that your best friend might be someone that you did not think you would be friends with in middle school. That's any piece of advice that I have for any middle schoolers going on to high school. And then I usually give a couple pieces of advice in general to anyone, I guess, that's around my age. I love doing that because whenever I have an opportunity like this, I love sharing the perspectives that I've learned. Again, just to give a little bit more background, so I get some form of credibility for what I have going on. But like I said, I have moved around a lot. I do have 4 older brothers and 2 sisters. I'm the youngest of 7. All of them are half siblings except for one of my sisters. She's my only full-blood sibling. There's a total of 3 divorces in my life. My father was previously married to another woman, and my mother was previously married to another man. They divorced their previous marriages to meet, and then once my father and mother met, they eventually divorced after they had me. So I've been around the block a little bit, and in addition to moving, I was hit hard with the passing of my father in 2014. I was a freshman in high school, so I've gained a lot of insight and perspective from that. As a result, I've been very independent throughout my life, but luckily I've been able to gain a lot of insight and values that have really contributed to the point where I am today. So I think I was reading this book, and I thought it was very insightful. It might be one of my new favorite books to reference and read. I think I'm just going to go back to what I always say, and is that whatever we're doing, whether it be work or school or anything like that, just keep in mind the relationships that you have with people, because at the end of the day, I feel like it's always about people. For an athlete, for example, people always say, like, the score doesn't matter. Just give your best. Obviously, the score matters. That's why we keep track of it. But did you give your best? Were you a good teammate? How was the process leading up to that game? Did you prepare the best you could? Were you cheering on your teammates while you were on the bench, or were you upset that you weren't playing? If it was for a career, were you upset that someone else got a raise instead of you, or were you happy for them as a colleague? And did that motivate you to work even harder, or perhaps look elsewhere for a different career? Because perhaps something else gives you more joy than where you're currently at. There's a lot of stuff that goes on into it, but at the end of the day, I feel like our relationships with people should never be cut short in light of anything else. It's always about people and your relationships that you have with everyone else around you, especially your family, and if you're religious with God. So I think that's the biggest thing as far as where what I constantly think about is how are my relationships and how am I treating people and how am I treating others. Like I said, my big thing is that, and I've learned this from the experience of passing with my father, is that, when we're no longer around, I always say this, is that when we're no longer around, it's our successes and individual accomplishments aren't what's remembered. It's the impact that we have on someone else's life, the influence that we have on someone else's life, is what I always say. Your grave is going to be just as deep as the person next to you, whether you made $100 more or $100,000 more next to him. Your grave is just going to be as deep as him. So, I mean, did you really make an influence on someone else's life is what's most important. How many people were you able to positively influence in your lifetime? And I think just keeping that in mind throughout your day will be huge. That's what I strive to keep in mind throughout my days, and whenever I wake up in the morning to get after it. So, I think those are the two topics that I covered. An update of my company, a current status, my study abroad program. I gave a couple life lessons. Hopefully they brought some value to you. Hopefully that covers everything. Mark, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be a part of your podcast. I think what you have is going to be something special. I think it's already special, and it provides a lot of value and insight to a lot of people that are listening and are able to have the opportunity to take part in what you're offering. So I think, again, thank you for having me. To be able to give me this platform and share my story, it means a lot to me. And document it. No one ever asked me to do this kind of stuff, so every time you ask me, it means a lot to me. So thank you. I don't want to ever take it for granted. And for all the listeners, I hope you found some value in what I was able to say. And I was able to inspire you a little bit to whether be a little bit better, a little bit more humble, or just appreciate the people around you a little bit more. And then if you want to tune in, my Instagram is, or keep updated with me, my Instagram is DAYGO, Dago _ SEANIE, Dago Shani. You can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter. My Twitter is just Sean, SEAN _ my last name Panado, PANADO. Add me on LinkedIn. That's how you can be in contact with me. I always respond to all my emails, all private messages, everything. And then, thanks again for having me, and take care.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the SMA Audio Experience podcast, brought to you by St. Michael San Diego's Technology and Social Media team. For more information, go ahead and visit our website at www.smasandiego.org. On Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, we use the common handle or username of SMA San Diego. So you can definitely reach out to us there, leave a tweet, a message, a post, a comment. We'll be happy to engage with you, answer all your questions, and really join in part of sharing the St. Michael San Diego story on social media and on the internet, and also via the podcast. So thanks again for listening. Take care, and we'll hear you next week.